Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Stupendous Wave, and welcome back to our Jurassic World podcast. I apologize, we have been really scarce on the podcast lately on the channel, but that will be being fixed essentially. We're in the works of starting a podcast channel just solely for podcasts because you guys really have been missing that. And in this video, I am so very honored to be joined by a great guest, Jurassic Collectibles. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And of course, his channel is in the description down below. You guys are all pretty much already subscribed to him. He's just great. But if you're not, I really do recommend it. He has not only great toy reviews, but great discussions as well. So in this video, we're just going to try and just basically have a conversation about what we thought about Jurassic World. These are all just personal opinions. None of it is like fact, like Jurassic Collectibles said in his video. It's all just opinion based. And like he said also, if you enjoyed the film, that's fantastic. And if you didn't, that's fine as well. You feel free to just say whatever you want in the comments. And just remember to respect everyone's opinion, and that you don't always have to accept someone else's opinion as your own, but it's always good to respect it. Wow, I really can't talk. So
No, that's good. That was well said.
yeah, thank you very much. So how did you just overall feel about the film? Just brief little summary of your feelings of it.
So I actually, over the course of the day, I got up in the morning and I wasn't excited about the film. And then as the course of the day went on, because I saw it in the evening about 8 p.m. here in the UK, I got more and more excited until I think by the time me and my wife went, I'd sort of reverted to my 6-year-old self. So I was really hyped for the movie. And I don't know if that meant that I was going in with high expectations. I don't know. I mean, I'd seen a lot of the trailers, so I kind of knew what to expect. But unfortunately, by the end of the movie, I came out feeling disappointed. And, I'm a massive Jurassic Park fan, and I wanted to love the film. And in my mind, I was sort of scrabbling to try and find things to cling on to. But overall, my feeling was disappointment.
Yeah, and I can see how some people would feel like that because it's not the first Jurassic Park, and that's clearly, in my personal opinion, the best in the series. But for me, I really, really did enjoy Jurassic World. I thought it was tons and tons of fun, and at the end
Cool.
of the day, that's just what I wanted in the theater. I just wanted to have a good time, and I feel like you said in your review, they really do kind of skimp on the science a little bit. And that's part of the things like with the whole Amber that really made the movie good, and especially the novel. The novel is completely science based, well, a big majority of it,
Mm.
and yeah, I can definitely understand that, but I just had a really, really good time. The big question that a lot of people are asking is, how did you feel about the Indominus Rex? Did you think they did it appropriately? Did you buy into it?
So I think the best way to talk about this is also referring back to the way I felt going to see Jurassic Park 3. When I saw Jurassic Park 3, I was hesitant about the introduction of the Spinosaurus, which was the new dinosaur for that movie. And in the end, I kind of went along with the ride and enjoyed the Spinosaurus anyway, because they made the Spinosaurus threatening. So it has dinosaur-like traits, and they treat it like the T-Rex in the first movie. So I get excited about that new dinosaur, regardless of what it is. And the Indominus Rex was treated respectfully. It was done very well. Both me and my wife agreed that the Indominus Rex was done really scarily. There were lots of things about it that were sort of lifted from the novels. I mean, the way that Chris Pratt sort of ran, sorry, spoiler alert, but Chris Pratt ran under the vehicle, and you see the lower jaw of the Indominus Rex. That is taken from the Lost World novel, but it's a T-Rex stalking, I think it's Sarah Harding and Dodgson at one point. So those things reminded me of the T-Rex, so I really enjoyed it. And I think the Indominus Rex was the really strong point of the film. And that's the one thing I thought, like, wow, if for me, if they'd focused on the Indominus Rex, and I know the Indominus Rex was the main focus, but if they'd kind of made that the main plot as opposed to bringing in the Raptor storyline, which I was less keen on, I think I might have come away enjoying the movie more. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I agree with you there because the Indominus Rex, like I bought into it. Like, yeah, it makes sense that they would make this thing, and I like how I said in my review how it mirrors us. Like, really, the people in charge of the film thought, okay, regular dinosaurs aren't gonna cut it for moviegoers anymore, so we have to build this new thing that's bigger and better, and that's exactly what happened in the movie, and
yeah,
that's exactly what I liked about the movie because it's like we are mirroring the part guests, and I feel like this movie really was trying to put you in those seats, especially the kids. I feel like those are the people you're supposed to be in the story. And
mm.
for me, it absolutely worked. How did you feel? Did you kind of feel like a kid watching the movie? Did you feel like you were maybe Gray or Lowry? Or were you just kind of like, this has some problems here?
I I fell into the problems because for me the opening. The opening didn't grab me too much because it was the Indominus Rex hatching from the egg. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then I thought something was going to go wrong, like something that would really, raise your heartbeat and get you kind of like pumped for the movie and kind of see this ferocious beast in action. But then suddenly it just went straight into the storyline, which is fine. But it felt, the only way I can describe it is it felt like the opening's sort of like a Home Alone movie. It had that very sort of happy, family-oriented opening that was a bit cheesy. I mean, this is just my opinion anyway. And the bird foot coming down and the stomp, the sound effect, the bird looked really artificial. And it was just a kind of like, whoa, what's going on? It really disorientated me. And then we were at the park within minutes, which is, some people have said is a good thing because there's less kind of build up in the story. But to me, I felt like, wait a minute, I haven't got to know the characters or what's going on yet. Can we kind of take some time and maybe get to know the characters? But we were in the park straight away. And then I think the bit that kind of made me completely turn off was the music, the Jurassic Park music, the cue. It started when we just saw the resort. And that music, I think, has always been used when you see a dinosaur, when you first see a dinosaur in the Jurassic Park movies. Now, I'm not saying it needs to copy the other three Jurassic Park movies, but if you've got something that's been like a device that's used in all the other movies, you kind of feel a bit weird when they start using it to just show a big, like what if you saw a big skyscraper and you saw the Jurassic Park music over the top? It doesn't have that same emotional effect as if you saw the dinosaurs, the real spectacle of Jurassic World. And I suppose they were trying to kind of show you that the park was, all futuristic and looked amazing now. But to me, the real spectacle is in the living dinosaurs. And I think that music, that cue, might have been a little off. They might have used another bit of music for that part. You could still had like wondrous music, but it didn't necessarily need to be the Jurassic Park theme that everyone's so familiar with. But that was just my gut feeling, and that's what I felt. And then when you saw the park, it was, really exciting. I think there wasn't anything that I didn't kind of know from the trailers. So all of the attractions were things that I knew about. I didn't know if there was going to be like, a Dilophosaur pen or some other dinosaurs that, baryonyx or, new dinosaurs that we haven't seen in the film before. I didn't know if that was going to come up, but it didn't. So I didn't feel like we spent a really long time enjoying the new spectacle of Jurassic World. But then it kind of started moving into the Raptor and Indominus Rex storyline. So it seemed to go really fast. I mean, I don't know what the length of this movie is, but it seemed like they had to like skip the introduction. It felt like things were going really, really quick. I don't know how you felt about that whole introduction, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the intro as well, because obviously you enjoyed it, and it's nice to hear what the good points are as well as the criticisms.
Yeah, well, I did enjoy the opening because kind of how I felt like it, felt is that I had the first movie, and this is like almost a continuation in the first movie. Personally, I feel like if you watch the first movie and then this movie, they're just a really, really great pair to go together. I really like that, and kind of, I feel like uh, the missing spectacle of the Brachiosaurus when the like music picks up. I feel like I really got almost the same amount, and like I'm younger, so I didn't get to experience the first Jurassic Park in the theater, so I can kind of understand seeing a Brachiosaurus on screen for the first time. But I mean, even seeing the buildings, I feel like for me, it wasn't the buildings that was like the oh my gosh, this is fantastic. It's like this is Jurassic World. This is a functioning park. That was like where it hit me. It's like this is completely like ready to go. And yeah, I know you said that you felt like it moved too fast, and I can understand that. Like the first movie definitely builds it up. Like you're with the characters, and then you go to Jurassic Park, and you're not really expecting to see the Brachiosaurus, unless of course you've read the novel. But it's different in the novel too, because of course they're in like a helicopter and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just I got that feeling because just the awe of seeing a real functioning Jurassic World and just kind of scanning over it really quick, trying to take in as much as possible. With the Mosasaur tank, and then of course the Innovation Center, and trying to see kind of like as much as I can of T-Rex Kingdom. I feel like this movie really it hit me there like, oh my gosh, Jurassic World is finally like a realization. Not only the movie, but like the theme park itself. And I can understand kind of like the fake out with the bird. Yeah, that was a little bit cheesy, but I just feel like it's a way to transition a scene, and it was unique, and it wasn't terrible, but yeah, I can understand how it looked a little bit fake, but in my personal opinion, that's pretty much the only time that the CGI really looked bad. I know you're like basically an animation expert, and I'm just a regular moviegoer, so you can probably definitely spot CGI, like what's good CGI and what's bad CGI a lot more effectively than I can. But
I think I don't think the snow helped either, because like you were suddenly in this snowy background, so it felt like almost like this bird's foot against white. And I know that was the point of it, is kind of like making you focus on the bird and the symbolism of the bird with, you know, dinosaurs being birds, but it felt like it was trying to make that point almost like too much. Like it was like, hey, look, birds and dinosaurs, remember Jurassic Park? And it was like, it felt like, yeah, we know, like, you know, you don't need to kind of do this to show us that, you know.
yeah,
I think it's implied really well at the end of the first Jurassic Park when he looks out and he sees the pelicans flying, and you're kind of thinking, what is Alan thinking? Is he thinking they're nothing like birds? Is he thinking they are like birds? Is he thinking they look like pteranodons? It's implied. There's not like an overflow of information, whereas this was like stomp. It's like a dinosaur. Now it's a bird. So I think like, you know, it being very in your face, I think was the thing that put me off. But you know, it made a point. It served a purpose, so I can see why it's there.
yeah, definitely. But like you said, it's pretty heavy-handed, but it hit the point home. Possibly that's why it's so hard to make a movie, because if you don't hit your point like hard enough, people will just completely miss it. And if you hit it too hard, it's like, wow, that was really over the top. And I can just respect movie makers just period for trying to get that middle ground. And yeah, I mean, in a lot of films, people will either hit it too hard or hit it not hard enough. But with Jurassic World, I can see that maybe that's a little bit overboard. But like for me, that's really not a big part of the movie. Like you said,
No,
the Raptors, you kind of didn't like how they were, or
no.
you didn't like the story. Can you just tell me kind of your thoughts on overall how you
So
thought the Raptors were?
so I'm trying to remember the order. I think you meet the Indominus Rex first in the pen, in his paddock, sorry, and then you meet the Raptors after that. I think that's how it happens in the
Yep,
film.
yep,
So instantly, it's like the Indominus Rex is introduced exactly the same way as the Raptors were in the first film. It's uh, covered by foliage and you can't see what it is, and it's lurking in there, and they're feeding it the same way pretty much they fed the raptor in the first one, except in the first film it was a live bull. Okay, and then we skip forward and we're at the raptor pen, and the raptor pen are in this big expanse. There's no jungle this time. You can see them running around. So straight away you've seen the most deadly dinosaur that's been in all of the other Jurassic Park movies, and it's being trained or being controlled by Chris Pratt. Now, I know people love this idea, and that's fine if you can go along with that. That's absolutely fine. But to me, suddenly I felt like the Raptors have been neutered. Like, even if they'd said, this is a completely different breed of raptor now, we've actually taken out all their intelligence and all of their fierceness, then it might have made more sense. But it wasn't explained that way. So I was like, wow, wait a minute. So the Raptors now have suddenly gone down a notch, and really they used to be where the Indominus Rex is. And people might say, yeah, that's because we got used to them over the franchise. But I use the analogy of the Alien franchise, where you see the xenomorphs more and more as the franchise goes on, and it has less and less effect on you. Whereas if you go back and watch the first film, the xenomorph is this scary, threatening dinosaur, well, monster, not dinosaur, and and it has that effect when you watch the first one. Less is more. And I think seeing the Raptors as much as we did, and in that fashion, to me, suddenly the Raptors weren't Raptor-like anymore. I was like, well, this is almost like a completely different dinosaur to me. So yeah, but that was just my gut feeling, and that's what I felt when I saw them. And I thought maybe they're going to make, the training of the Raptors plausible, and I would say they did their best to do that. I just wish it had been another dinosaur, because I think the Raptors, if you think about their reputation through the other films, when you get to the fourth film, it suddenly flipped around. And the plausibility there was lost for me. The other aspect of the Raptors was Hoskins, and Hoskins for me goes along with the Raptors, and his perceiving of them as potential weapons. And I know Chris Pratt's character was like ex-Navy, so it all tied in. But to me, again, the Hoskins perceiving them as weapons, wow, that's too far for me. I mean, you've got the hybrid dinosaur, and you've got this guy perceiving the Raptors as weapons. It's two storylines, if you ask me. I feel like one could be one film and one could be another film, but that's just my gut feeling.
Yeah. Well, going back to like you said about the Indominus Rex, how it's very similar to the Raptors. I would say that that's a homage, more to actually the book than the movie itself, because in the movie you don't see the Velociraptors, and they're just kind of thrashing the cage about and tearing apart, I believe, yeah, a cow. But in the novel, it's like Alan Grant, Ian Malcolm, and Tim, when they walk up to the raptor paddock, it's like there's a raptor there and it's just staring at him.
Yeah.
But and that's really what the Indominus Rex was doing. It just like stared at him, and he's like, "Can he see us, or can it see us?" And she's like, "Yeah, she can sense our thermal temperature or whatever." But I actually thought that was a great contrast between the first movie and then with Jurassic World, because you can see in the Raptors, just right away they're ripping apart the cage trying to get at the cow. But now in this movie, it's like this thing is more of like this silent, almost storm that's coming. Like right over here with the Raptors in the first film, you have just this raging attack going on. But over here, it's a little bit more calculated, almost, the Indominus Rex looking at him. And I thought that was actually a pretty good homage to the first film. Their introductions are fairly similar. I mean, you don't see him all at first, and I like that. I like that they saved the Indominus Rex, and I believe actually the first full body shot, well, not full body shot, but the first real money shot is when the Indominus Rex flips over the car and eats the park worker.
Yeah.
But I like that they saved it, because I mean, yeah, we were kind of spoiled in the trailers for what it looks like, but I can just imagine just sitting in the movie theater not knowing what this thing looks like and just loving that whole reveal and that whole sequence. And I think that you're definitely onto something when you say that the raptors feel less threatening, but I feel they're almost supposed to feel that way. Like they're still, like you said, they're still dangerous. They'll rip you apart.
Mm.
Even like Owen was afraid to go into the paddock, even when they were all riled up, and especially when they were riled up because, um, like he said, he kind of has a connection with them, and that he's the alpha. But I always got the sense like they were dangerous and they really would turn on anybody, even Owen, because as he was backing up, they would have jumped on him and they would have killed him if he
Mm.
hadn't rolled under the fence. And I feel like that kind of established that yeah, these things are very very dangerous. And I feel like this movie more was focused on their intelligence than their aggression. Really,
Mm.
I kind of feel like that's the path they took, and that's kind of like if you look at all the movies, the Velociraptors they always change. Like the first movie is a middle ground between intelligence and aggressiveness. The second movie, they're clearly not as intelligent. I don't know if you feel the same way, but they're more aggressive. And then the third movie, they seem to be less aggressive and more intelligent. Of course, not killing the people when they have the eggs. And then in this movie, they're just, of course, the next stage of intelligence is like training. Can these things be trained? And if they are indeed as smart as people say they are, smarter than primates even, I think that it's just kind of like the logical step that these things could be trained. And it's not really I feel like since I've kept up with the movie so much, off of like the movie, it probably added to the experience because based off the website, I know why exactly they're not in the park, and that's never really explained in the movie. It's
Mm.
on the website. It says like they're not allowed in the park because they're too aggressive and they're trying to kind of accustom them to humans. But yeah, I mean, the Vic Hoskins thing, kind of, I felt like that was sequel building, almost. I don't know how you felt about that.
Mm. I think Hoskins weaponizing the Raptors and training the Raptors from Chris Pratt's perspective. I didn't feel that. I think it was combined with the fact that we saw so much of them from straight away. I know that you were saying the Raptors have kind of have had an evolution over the other three movies, but something that's consistent about them all the way through is that they are the apex predator and they are the one that's equivalent to us. And therefore, because they're so smart and so predatory, they are like the bad guys. They have always been the bad guys, and they've always been elusive. So you don't see much of them early on. And I think because we saw a lot of them early on, I felt like, wow, this doesn't feel like a raptor to me. Like a raptor would do something way more sinister. I felt like maybe there should have been an incident with them at the beginning to establish that the raptors are still as deadly as they have been in the other films. And I think to me, it felt like the intelligence was sort of undermined by their training. I think that if it was a raptor that was that intelligent, I don't think it would be trained like that. And I know they turn at the end because they communicate, spoilers, because they communicate with the Indominus Rex. But I still feel like they wouldn't have had that relationship with a human being. I think they would have just killed them flat out. And even if they established some sort of quasi relationship with a human being, I think they would have killed them straight away within 2 seconds because that's the whole thing about the raptors is that they're supposed to be this deadly equivalent to human beings. They're the same height, they're smart, they're deadly, and they'll kill you in a few seconds, and they'll all team up on you. So I kind of felt like a bit of that was lost, even though they turned again back to like predatory dinosaurs in the second half. I felt it was lost already because they'd been trained, and actually that relationship with Chris Pratt still remained later on, and I still didn't buy that. So that was just my gut feeling from growing up on three films where they've been established as this apex predator. Suddenly they were taken down a notch.
Yeah,
But
I could definitely understand that. It's definitely a departure from how they're depicted in the other films.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Um, but like I said, I just think it makes sense if these animals are so intelligent, and they're really described as like the most intelligent animals on the planet besides humans. That's really how
Mm.
they're portrayed. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, whales are intelligent, they can be trained. Primates are intelligent, they can be trained. Dolphins, intelligent, trained. I just I felt like it makes sense. But just because something makes sense doesn't mean you should always do it.
Mm.
But yeah, I didn't have any problems with that. But I definitely can see how people would. And we knew that like this movie was really uh, a a leap, and I feel like it's if you can accept the leap, you're gonna have a really good time with this movie. But if you're really like a purist in Jurassic Park and like these animals are just like that animals, and I feel like you might not enjoy this movie as much. Um,
Yeah, and I think, if they wanted to go down that route, I think they could have still convinced me that that was possible, but they didn't show the evolution from what we'd seen before in the other movies to what was suddenly presented. It was they were trained, we got there and they were trained, whereas, we didn't see how that happened, And I think if you'd seen the journey, even in a montage or something, it might have actually, or if he'd gone into a backstory and talked about how, remember when we trained the raptors when we first started training them, some kind of development as to how the raptors got that way, whether it's that they've been genetically engineered that way, something like that would have just made it more plausible to me, considering that's where we've come from. But yeah, I think if you bought that, then you were in for a good ride. But I was like, whoa, what's going on?
yeah, it's like a shock, really. And it's like you accept it, you're gonna have a good time. You don't accept it, I'm not gonna say you won't have a good time, but it's a big part of the story.
Yeah. One thing I did want to like ask you, and also one thing I was interested to know is I wanted to do like a poll to see whether people who saw Jurassic Park 3 as a youngster, so that was like the big Jurassic Park film for them, whether they enjoyed Jurassic World more than people who were around to remember the original Jurassic Park and Lost World. Because I reckon there's a divide there, and I reckon it's kind of like Jurassic Park 3 like is closer to like a popcorn Saturday sort of, happy-go-lucky fun film with dinosaurs, whereas the first two are they're quite dark and quite serious and, like you said, quite scientific. And I'd be interested to do a poll of like, when were you born, and was Jurassic Park 3 the big movie that you saw, and did you like Jurassic World, and see, kind of do like a Venn diagram of how many overlap with their ages. I'm sure there's going to be a real mix. There's going to be people who were there for the original who love this one
Yeah,
because that what it references in the film. But I do wonder if the Jurassic Park 3 generation enjoyed this more than the Jurassic Park generation. It's just something that I'm interested in,
yeah.
finding out.
I mean, if you guys want to do that, you can just tell us like your age, what Jurassic Park movie you were kind of introduced to first, and then just tell us whether or not you enjoyed this movie, and we
Mm.
can just kind of see. But like for me, Jurassic Park 3 sadly was the introduction to the Jurassic Park franchise to me, and I really did enjoy Jurassic World miles more than Jurassic Park 3. But for me, Jurassic Park 3 was like, as a little kid, yeah, dinosaurs are cool. And then I remember going home and my parents telling me, it's like, hey, since you saw the third one today, here, check out these two other movies. I remember they had to take away The Lost World from me because I would just watch it over and over again.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. But after seeing Jurassic Park 3, I'm like, wow, these two first ones, they're way better.
Mm.
And I believe I had a similar experience to see Jurassic Park 3 as I actually got to see Jurassic World, because we actually got to see advanced screenings of that as well. I just
Cool.
remember sitting there as a little kid being excited and very disappointed in Jurassic Park 3 at the same time, even as a kid. But
Mm.
with Jurassic World, I just had a really, really good time, and that's what I was looking for. So, real quick, this is the big thing that everyone wants to know about. How did you feel about the finale with the spoilers, the whole Mosasaur, Blue coming back, the Velociraptors, Indominus Rex, and of course Rexy herself? How did you feel that was handled?
Uh, I felt like there was too many cooks spoiling the broth at that point. Like there was all the dinosaurs were coming at the T-Rex, and I made a post on my Twitter that in 2010 IDW published a comic book. I think it was Jurassic Park Redemption, where all the dinosaurs gang up on, I think it's a Giganotosaurus at the end, and they kill it in the sea. And it's kind of like, it rings true to what is the ending of Jurassic World. It's really quite uncanny. But I think that whole ganging up at the end, I think it could have been improved by just having the individual dinosaurs fight off the Indominus Rex. And I know that happened to an extent, but I feel like if the raptors had been all slain, and then that was done, and then suddenly so you think there's no hope, and you've got that real sense of suspense in between. And then the T-Rex comes out, and it's like, whoa, and then the T-Rex goes down, and then you've got more suspense in between. So it's like you're taking like little breathers in between each one, so it doesn't feel like you're rushing to the end. And then it's like the T-Rex comes back. And I know that's what happened, but it felt very packed into a short amount of time. And I realized the visual effects for that sequence is very expensive, but I felt like it could have been handled over a longer period of time and in a kind of more finessed way. But, it's cool because a lot of fans got to see the T-Rex again, and I know that was really exciting. And I can understand people loving that bit. And the Mosasaurus coming out is a big shock. It's like, cool. And the Indominus Rex died, the right thing happened, not like in Jurassic Park 3 where the Spinosaurus was the victor. This time you actually got the payoff of the bad guy dying. So I can understand why people enjoyed that bit. But I just think it could have been done a bit better. That's my sort of feeling coming out. And also, I didn't like the way towards the end the raptors were anthropomorphized. They were kind of made to look as if they're thinking about things in a way that's like sort of, I don't know, maybe it's because I work in animation, but there was a bit when the raptor kind of looks towards the horizon as if it's like thinking. It's like, it's like almost like I felt like the hand could have come up with the little raptor claw and made that thinking raptor pose. It was like, it was a really obvious animation cue, and I felt like that to me isn't the raptors. The raptors have always been animalistic and very smart, but still animalistic. It's hard to describe, but I didn't feel like the raptors were being raptoresque in that last sequence. Obviously, there's a Dilophosaur as well, which I'm sure everyone was excited about. But I really wanted to see some live Dilophosaurs, especially around where Nedry died or something. Like they got there, and then the Dilophosaurs were there. How cool would it have been if Owen and Claire had stumbled across Nedry's car as well, and then Dilophosaurs had been there, and they'd escaped Dilophosaurs? Like that would have been an amazing sequence, and I think it would have really made the nostalgia points go through the roof. Whereas actually what we had was the visitor center, the Jeep, and then that was like it. That was the contained bit of nostalgia. I think if you'd had the Dilophosaurs as well, that would have just been amazing. But that's just a small gripe.
Yeah. Well, for me, the end of the movie is like mind-blowing almost, because if you think back, the dinosaur fights in Jurassic Park, they've been very short all the time and few and far and in between. So like the first movie, the T-Rex takes out the Velociraptors pretty effectively and pretty quickly. And then the third movie, I believe the Spinosaurus T-Rex fight is like 59 seconds long, which is just, no, they can't do that. And for this movie, I just had a fantastic time watching it. I mean, with the whole, when the T-Rex came out, I don't know if like people clapped in your audience or not, but in my like audience, people really did freak out when the T-Rex came. It was just great to see her exit her paddock. I thought that was just awesome. And like just to see her eyes on the flare, I thought that was really cool. How it almost illuminated it. Definitely enjoyed that. So yeah, for me, basically the end fight was just really, really good time. I liked the way the Mosasaur took out the Indominus Rex in the end. Um, I actually really thought Blue was dead, and that fake out worked on me. I don't know if it worked on you, but when she came
Mm.
back, I was very, very happy to see Blue come back and kind of, really the original, basically kings of or queens, since they're all female, of the world almost in Jurassic Park take out the Frankenstein creature. I thought that was appropriate. I mean, the Mosasaur kind of jumping out at the end was more like an instinctual thing for the Mosasaur, but for the T-Rex and the Velociraptor going after it, I feel like they definitely, maybe it was more a territorial thing for the T-Rex, and for the Velociraptor it was just kind of like protecting her little pack there. But I
Mm.
enjoyed it, and how did you think Rexy looked? I thought that she has aged very appropriately with her coloring. Like,
Uh,
she's really tan and now she's dark.
yeah, I thought it was a little bit off model, but again, this might be just because I work in animation and I'm kind of used to seeing. I mean, the problem is that they had, in terms of doing the visual effects, is trying to strike a balance between the physical puppet and the CG puppet of the original, which actually they're not. In terms of their head model, it's quite inconsistent. The one in the CG model has quite a slender head, although the CG still holds up till this day. But I think the T-Rex looked, about 80% there. I would say there was something about the eyes. The eyes were really big and glassy. And I think maybe it's because just the innovations in CG allows them to texture the dinosaur in different ways than they probably would now. Or sorry, they probably would have in the original film. I think in the original film, the T-Rex had bright yellow eyes and they weren't very glassy. They were just really bright yellow and quite, I don't know, quite oversaturated in a way. But that was part of the look of the original T-Rex. And I think with this one, its eyes were like much darker, much more glassy, as if it was a real glass ball. And I think I just felt that the proportion of the head was a little bit wide. But these are just small things. And I think, to be honest, I would have liked to have seen more of her. I would have liked to have seen more of the T-Rex. I think although in the first film, as you said, it does end pretty quickly with the T-Rex, there are nice breaks of suspense between attacks. So you've got the raptor attack, which takes its time, and it's a stalking attack. It takes a long time. And then you have the gap, the breather. You have them crawling through the ventilation part. So you have more attacks going on. Kind of, you feel the presence of the raptors hunting them through this big long sequence. And you don't need to see the dinosaurs. All you need to know is that they're there. And they do a similar thing in the Lost World as well with the T-Rex in San Diego. You don't necessarily need to see it to know that it's there. And I think that's what I felt lacked a little bit, like a little bit more of the you kind of knowing that they're still being stalked and it taking its time to sink in and being really scary and your heart racing because you're thinking the T-Rex is around the corner. To me, it was kind of like, and here are the dinosaurs fighting, and this is it, blah 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 blah, and now the Indominus Rex is dead. Whereas I think in the original films, they just took their time, they paced it, and you had some real moments of suspense to breathe in between. But that was my major problem with the length of the battle and the fact that everyone was fighting at the same time. I think it would have been cool if you'd separated those out and had more breathing time between.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. We can't really go see what that would look like, but
No,
which
that's
is kind of disappointing.
yeah. I think it felt like everything that was happening. The attacks were short bursts of attack, and that's cool. But I felt like there wasn't like a kitchen scene where you were like, oh my goodness, the raptors in here and like stalking someone. And I know you don't want exact copies of the first film, but it's just that pacing, that taking its time. Less is more. You don't need to see the dinosaurs. If you don't see the dinosaurs, you feel the presence of them because you're like, wait a minute, I saw them come in just a minute ago, and now where is it? Where is the dinosaur? That's the kind of stuff that I think was lacking in that final battle. That kind of suspense and that feeling of I know the dinosaurs are there. Where are they? Where are they? But yeah, That was my main thing with the end battle.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, but for me, I had a really good time with the movie overall, and the last battle was awesome. Like you said, because your version of the last battle, that sounds awesome. Like a little bit more of a cutting back to the people, and not really, maybe a little bit more suspense leading up to that. Maybe a scene with the raptors,
Yeah,
before.
I
But
thought maybe you could have something where they're in the control room and you've got the corridors, the adjoining corridors to the control room, and you've got raptor attacks going on, but it's like taking its time. So the way that they sent Samuel L. Jackson off to the power shed, and then like they don't hear anything from him, and it's like, oh man, what happened? It's kind of it's taking its time to breathe. It's kind of like it's really building up that feeling of tension. You're like you don't know it, you don't see it, so you don't know what's going on. And I think sometimes that's effective. Like less is more.
yeah, I understand. Like I said, I really wish that I could see both versions and then kind of say definitively, yeah, one is better than the other. But
Yeah,
personally, this fight was awesome. I liked it. It was fast paced because really that might even be a generational thing because I'm younger and
yeah,
we are so used to fast paced movies. I mean, all the Marvel movies, huge 20-minute action sequences at the end, and
yeah,
then it's definitely a big difference because like before, it's moved on to like a slower paced chase to now an action based quick things across the screen, and yeah, I feel like there is basically like you said, it's probably likely that the younger people that are more accustomed to stuff like this probably enjoyed this movie a lot more.
mm,
And then people who maybe experienced the first Jurassic Park, and they're very different. The first one is a slow build to each big set piece, and this
mm,
one it's just kind of set piece after set piece after set piece. And I'm not saying either of those is bad or good. It's just it's a preference thing.
yeah.
Um, and
Exactly. And I wasn't part of the generation that saw the original Star Wars, and I was part of the generation that grew up and I was a young lad when Star Wars Episode 1 came out. And I still love Episode 1. Episode 1 is still really exciting to me, as much as the prequels get, torn down as a newer version of something that was really good in its heyday. I still like Episode 1 and I liked the prequel movies when they came out. I was really excited. But people from the generation that remembered the original Star Wars were like, "Oh no, Episode 2, man." And then they were like, "No, I'm not even going to watch Episode 3." So there is definitely a generational kind of a gulf between the generations that's quite significant, and I think it changes the way, how much you enjoy the movie. And I want everyone to enjoy the movie, but if there's a new generation that enjoy the movie and they're all kind of fired up about Jurassic Park, I'd rather that happen than not. So I'm just glad that there's a new generation who are enjoying the franchise and probably going back and delving into the older films and the older comic books and stuff. So I think it's great to get this buzz going about the franchise regardless.
yeah, I feel like that's happened because I don't know about you, but I got a boost in subscribers after the movie came out, and I feel like a lot of that is like kids that are into Jurassic Park now. Like I don't know if that was the same for you, but yeah, that's what I want. I want kids now to feel like they're watching the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure they do. From what I've heard, dads going with their kids, that's the impression I get is that they were like so excited because their kids were excited. So that was the real enjoyment for them was seeing their kids enjoy the film, and although it might not have been their cup of tea, they thought, yeah, that's cool that there's a new generation being introduced to, dinosaurs again.
Yep. So anyway, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much. This is again Jurassic Collectibles. His link to his channel is in the description down below. I definitely recommend that you check it out. Like I said, fantastic. Probably the biggest Jurassic Park YouTuber out there, and well deserved. So thank you so much for joining me here and kind of helping out the littler guy.
Thank you so much, Stupendous. It really is an honor to be on your channel. So thank you for having me, and I'm always it's always a pleasure. So I'll come back anytime you want.
Definitely. Thank you so much. So anyway, guys, what did you guys think about Jurassic World? Please leave a like on the video. Like I said, go check out his channel, and have a great day.